into kind of a brief but essential socio-political, cultural, scientific, psychological, economic, and maybe others too, background to the 20th century literary landscape. We also talked about various kinds of literary technical innovations, experiments which were carried out in great amount to make modern poetry modernist in its appearance, in its tone. I shall be talking about the poet, the concerned poet, that is T.S. Eliot, that is Thomas Stearns Eliot. Thomas Stearns Eliot. Do T.S. Eliot happens to be a British poet, but he is commonly regarded as American British poet, simply because he came to Britain from America in the pursuit of a tradition which he found missing in his motherland, that is America. Though Eliot is regarded as a modern poet, a modernist poet, and to a great extent, if I am not wrong, he has also been considered as one of the new critics. New critics. But any beginning with Eliot, I think, would be incomplete without knowing about him, without knowing him as a person, without knowing him as an individual, and without knowing him as a poet. And I'm emphasizing this point because primarily we consider him as a modernist poet, and to a great extent, they said, one of the new critics, which totally, the new criticism totally defies the autobiographical elements. I will not be talking about new criticism, but it is but important, but essential, but significant for all of us to begin with T.S. Eliot and his life. As I said, Eliot was born in America, and there are three important family figures which played a shaping role in the formation of T.S. Eliot as a literature, as a poet, as an intellectual. The first person I would like to refer is his grandfather. His grandfather, who was a religious man, and I'm emphasizing this because America predominantly was a religious country, especially if you look at the history of America and its discovery and what followed afterwards in terms of European settlers and the very religious belief which we find in Puritanism can't be simply put aside. So his grandfather, W.G. Eliot, was a religious man, and whenever you talk about Eliot, as Eliot himself has proclaimed that he is a Catholic, he is a Catholic as far as religion is concerned. He himself has said he is a royalist as far as a political system is concerned. So his being Catholic Christian owes much to his grandfather, who was a devout Christian and didn't like much of the social changes. His grandfather, his own father, his biological father, Eliot, didn't like personally. Eliot was not in good bond or good rapport with his own biological father. As his father was a businessman, as I said, and certain biographers have gone up to the extent of saying that his father didn't have a very well cordial relationship with the mother of Eliot. And some of them have tried to reread one of classical essays of T.S. Eliot, Hamlet and His Problem, which talks about mother-son relationship in the light of the biography of Eliot, where Eliot was more attached to his mother than to his father. Anyway, just information. Eliot's mother, she was a lady of religion, as well as she had a strong sense of duty, a strong sense of morality, a strong sense of traditional principles and values, which we will see thoroughly in the poem The Wasteland. So his mother, Charlotte, had deep impression on Eliot, T.S. Eliot, as a kid. Am I clear? Yes?
Sir.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Eliot was studied at Harvard, the famous Harvard University, established in 17th century, where he was exposed, where he was exposed to the languages, to the languages like Sanskrit and Pali. And the master texts of these two languages, seminal texts of these two languages. If you talk about Sanskrit, we have Upanishads, we have Bhagavad Gita. And if you talk about Pali, we have rich Buddhist philosophy. Rich Buddhist philosophy. Eliot read a lot these Hindu and Buddhist texts, and we would be seeing the references to these in his magnum opus, The West Land. Eliot at Harvard was deeply influenced by American scholars like Irving Babbitt, like Irving Babbitt, and Charles Lenman. Charles Lenman, along with one American philosopher, American philosopher F. H. Bradley. F. H. Bradley, who exposed Eliot to the teachings like highest unity of the absolute, highest unity of the absolute, which was equally sustained by certain Christian norms, certain Christian beliefs, at the same time sustained by Hindu scriptures, especially Bhagavad Gita, especially Bhagavad Gita. F. H. Bradley also talks about the difference between the seminal difference between appearance and reality. Appearance and reality, which you should try to understand as the difference between truth and reality, the difference between Kantian, Kantian phenomena and noumena. Phenomena and noumena. Phenomena is what we see, what we perceive, and noumena is what we can't, beyond our perception, in the realm of transcendental, in the realm of absolute. Truth and reality. If you think about Bhagavad Gita, does Bhagavad Gita talk about reality, or does Lord Krishna or Lord Krishna talk to Arjuna whatever the which is absolute, the famous American philosophers teaching at Harvard University. How the world is, or how spiritually one should know about Paramatma and Jivatma. Paramatma and Jivatma. Whereby this Jivatma, this self, is not something which should be given too much of importance. Instead of this self, soul is of highest value. So in a nutshell, if you read Bhagavad Gita, if you read F.H. Bradley, and even certain aspects of Buddhism, even they all talk about this world as Maya, illusory. माया महाठगिनी हम जानी, कबीरदास. Illusory world, and how there is a greater reality, greater truth beyond this Maya, beyond this web of illusion, which Eliot talks more than often, be it Ash Wednesday, be it Four Quartets, be it Murder in the Cathedral, or even be it the West Land. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay. Eliot cannot be understood, can't be studied without the role played by Ezra Pound. Without the role played by Ezra Pound. And about Ezra Pound, and about Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot categorically wrote. T.S. Eliot categorically wrote. And what did he write about Ezra Pound? He writes, Pound did not create the poets. Pound, that is what? Whom? Ezra Pound did not create the poets, but he created a situation. So Pound did not create the poets, he created a situation in which, according to Eliot, for the first time, there was a modern movement. There was a modern movement for poetry in which English and American poets, in which English and American poets collaborated, knew each other's work, knew each other's works, and also influenced each other. This is what Eliot thinks about whom? Ezra Pound. That Pound did not create the poets, but he created a situation in which the writers, the poets, across the transatlantic sites from England and America. They all came together, they all collaborated, and they all influenced each other's writing styles and techniques. This is the value which Eliot accords to the stature, charisma of Ezra Pound. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Eliot and other writers initially contributed contributed in the magazines like The Egoist, The Athenaeum, The Criterion, and who can forget a very important publishing house, Faber and Faber. Faber and Faber. Faber, Faber, Faber and Faber. Right? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
सब लोग हैं, एक का चेहरा दिखा। अरे भाई कुछ लोग बस चेहरा तो दिखाएं, हम किससे बात कर रहे हैं। गुड, थैंक यू सो मच। अरे वाह, क्या बात है, वाह वाह, वेरी गुड, थैंक यू सो मच। ऐसे लगता है कि कुछ लोग दिख रहे हैं, नहीं वो ऐसे लगता है कि बस आप बस एक मशीन से बात कर रहे हैं और विदाउट एनी ह्यूमन टच। चलिए, थैंक यू सो मच, बी लाइक दिस। So, am I clear so far? I'm just talking about T.S. Eliot as a poet. Okay? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Any attempt to understand Eliot, any attempt to understand Eliot would be incomplete, would be incomplete without referring to his better half, wife, without referring to his wife. And who was she? Do you know her name? Anybody? Anybody? The wife of Eliot, Mr. Eliot. Who was Mrs. Eliot? Vivienne Highwood. Vivienne Highwood. And this marriage was utterly a fiasco. unsuccessful as it is reported to the readers that his wife was a psychopath and was a victim of mood swings. Mood swings. It's reported to the readers. I haven't met her, neither the ghost of her, so I can't. But this is what I have read about his wife, Vivian Highwood. She brought Eliot immense suffering. Maybe Eliot brought her suffering too. Huh? Because of adjustment issues. And yes, any marriage can't be successful if there is adjustment issue at all. There must be a kind of compatibility. Yes, those who are married in this class, they may know, but I know it better than you do because I have been married for last 11 to 12 years, so I know this perhaps. Financial issue. As Eliot didn't do, he was working in a very prestigious bank, Eliot Bank. Yes, he was a clerk, come cashier over there, but he couldn't earn that much of money to be given to his wife, and that resulted in lots of quarrels and stripes, which led to the doom of their married life. She was again reported a neurotic woman, psychopath, and on top of that, she was flirtatious. And I have read that she was having illegal relationship with none other than Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell, the philosopher of the famous philosophers of 20th century. And I'm quite sure that somewhere this episode of his life must have impressed Eliot much, because the kind of obsession, I'm saying it obsession right now, maybe I can say something else tomorrow, so please don't take me for granted. The kind of obsession which Eliot shows towards sex and sexuality, as we shall see in the West Land, largely comes from this episode of his life. If you try to dig deep his biography, then you find all these things. Otherwise, he was a sensitive one, he was a poet, and he could be seeing all around himself. But somewhere we cannot sideline the importance of this episode of his life as far as his philosophy of sex and sexuality is concerned in the poem West Land. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Eliot's important writings include, you know it better than I do, I think. Anna? So we have Prufrock, we have Gerontion, we have the Holloman, we have Ash Wednesday, we have Four Quartets, we have his verse plays, Murder in the Cathedral, The Confidential Clerk, The Financial Expert, and several of creative writings. Creative writings, especially his criticisms like tradition and individual talent, Hamlet and his problem, right? And the one he is known for his workshop criticism, and other sorts of critical critical writings. So he was a poet par excellence, no doubt. He was a verse dramatist. You have to do Murder in the Cathedral, which is a verse play which talks about the murder of Samuel Beckett, not the one that is the author of Waiting for Godot. One was Samuel Beckett, long back ago. You know, you should be knowing him soon. So he has written poems, he's written verse plays, excuse me, and he also has the credit to write certain critical writings, criticism in that way. That's why, and this is the package, complete package. That is T.S. Eliot. Now, I shall be talking about certain critical precepts of T.S. Eliot. And please allow me to ask you, what are the important remember while thinking of him? Please tell me. Yes. Did you hear me? What are the important critical precepts which Eliot popularized? Yes, I'm waiting for you. Am I audible? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Objective
Am I audible?
qualitative? Yes, sir.
So I was audible now. So please tell me, yaar, just quick, huh? Objective correlative. What is this? नकल नहीं मारना है, मोबाइल नहीं देखना है, बताना है कि ऑब्जेक्टिव क्वालिटी क्या है जो आपको याद है, थोड़ा मोड़ा, थोड़ा हो, ज्यादा हो, कम हो, गलत, थोड़ा देन मैटर, बस गिव
It
इट अ
has
ट्राई.
something to do with the sir. It has something to do with the organic unity in a play.
Organic unity in the play. Somebody else? Objective correlative. जो भी आपको दिमाग में आ रहा है, इफ यू कैन थिंक ऑफ समथिंग, है ना, शी हैज थॉट ऑफ समथिंग, शी हैज स्पोकन, मोस्ट वेलकम. Please, without looking into anywhere, please tell me what can you think of the objective. Yes.
Hello.
हाँ हाँ, मैं सुन रहा हूँ, बताइए.
Sir, objective correlative, we can say that it is a chain of events or the effect of nature on emotions. For example, we can see in Shakespearean plays like King Lear, where he was deceived by his daughter, so he is very panicked, troubled, mad, like he's doing mad, like okay. So when he run out and see the weather, which is very stormy, and this is so the emotion which he was experienced earlier, sad, sorrow, whatever it is also environment or somewhere nature also have effect on his emotions to evoke or something like that. That is objective correlation.
Good. Very okay. Okay. Very close. With good with example, है ना? Anyway, so the simplest definition, the simplest approach to his concept of objective correlative is a set of objects, a set of objects, a situation, a chain of events, a chain of events which shall be the formula, which shall be the formula of the particular emotion, particular emotion. To understand objective correlative, we need to understand, we need to know how Eliot defines poetry. And he says, while contrasting himself to William Wordsworth, who defines poetry, Wordsworth, as a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions and feelings recollected in tranquility. Against this idea, which seemingly talks about the involvement of I, the individual poet, emotions and feelings, Eliot says that poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. If you remember that. Poetry is not turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. And poetry is not the expression of personality, but an escape from personality. It means while composing a poem, the writer's self, the writer's personal self, personal emotion and desire should not occur in a direct manner. Instead of using I, my, myself, the poet should go for objective correlative, whereby he should try to create a situation, certain objects, certain images, certain certain chain of events which shall be the formula for that matter, any kind of particular emotion. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Getting? It means you can compare this to a certain extent John Keats's concept of negative capabilities. Anybody? What is this negative capability?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
We see
Huh?
negative capability in Keats. No, we see negative capability in Shakespeare's plays where he's writing about a particular theme, but he is completely detached from it. Like it has nothing to do with his personal experiences and so forth.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Objective analysis, objective perception, and to remain in uncertainty. To remain in what? Uncertainty. Very good. This objective correlative is very much similar to that. This is also very much similar to the theory of mask. Theory of mask as proposed by W.B. Yeats. Theory of mask, whereby literally one need not to project oneself directly. Rather, one has to put on the masks of several things, several kinds in that way. Right? So this objective correlative is a very important concept proposed by Eliot, which simply discards, the emotional exuberance, the emotional exaggeration of the self, as we find it profusely in the writings of Romanticism, Romantic is especially William Wordsworth. Objective, correlative. As, for example, in the poem The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, he invents a character, Prufrock. Prufrock could be Eliot himself. Nobody can deny that, with certain reservations at the same time. But Prufrock, as I said, is the objective correlative through which Eliot is expressing his desire, his perspective, and his dissatisfaction with the kind of modern age, modern society which he perceives ironically in that way. Okay, what else do you remember about T.S. Eliot apart from objective correlative? and his definition of a poem. Yes, come up. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Huh?
Sir, the impersonality
Yes.
theory of Eliot, that is also linked with this, because he talks about, he had
I
given
just
the
discussed.
equation.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
discussed this. Huh? This
Yes, sir.
next
Because
one. Next one.
okay.
Okay. Good. Good. Huh? He also says that poetry is not an inspiration. Poetry is not an inspiration, but it is an organization. And nobody could dare to write the wasteland out of inspiration. Nobody. It could only be organized into an artistic pattern in that way. Yes, I'm waiting for some more responses. Yes. Am I audible? Tell me, yes.
So he also brought back the attention to the metaphysical poet.
Bit louder, huh?
So he also brought back the attention to the metaphysical poet.
Huh? In what context? What does he talk about in what does he talk about in the context of metaphysical poets? Yes.
So he praises them because in their time metaphysical poets were not very appreciated, and even Samuel Johnson also he also did not he just he just gives no attention to the metaphysical poets also don't know much about it, that he brought back the attention to metaphysical poets.
Thank you. Let me help you. In the context of metaphysical poets, he talks about his concepts like dissociation of sensibilities and association of sensibilities, the proper coordination between heart and head, heart and mind, a kind of training, emotional training, which he saw thoroughly missing in Elizabethan poets, especially the writer of the Fairy Queen, Spencer, and he praises metaphysical poets, especially John Donne, for the kind of emotional restraint, for the kind of association of sensibilities, which is a glaring thing, glaring aspect, according to T.S. Eliot. Yes, association and dissociation of sensibility. Okay. Thank you so much. That's all for today. I hope you must have been with the class thoroughly. I'm quite sure that you have gleaned something important about Eliot as a poet. We shall continue this class, this Eliot one, tomorrow at the same time. and then let us see what happens. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.